get caught up to, pay any bills or work on any proposals I might have needed to get out the way, pull any prospecting um, lists that I wanted to prospect that week. But that was my time. Usually Saturday mornings, that's what I would do, would go to the office. And I used to call it making love to the office because I would, straighten things up, or, I bring in a new plant, or
making love to the
make the space pretty, if you will, do a little design. That was my time with the office. And so I was there, and later on that day, I was going to be meeting a loved one down at a little tiki bar in the middle of town here in Sarasota.
If y'all hear a little bit of noise, that's the gang stalkers next door. They celebrating their own demise. Saying yay.
Called O'Leary's. And O'Leary's was like a popular spot at the time. It was a tiki bar, and they had good.
How can you be happy and you going to hell? I mean, your fucking destiny is already sealed.
Bar food is right on the water, and they play. Sometimes they would have like a steel band or steel drum guy playing, so it was a real nice little chill little spot. And after I was going to leave the office, I was going to meet a loved one there. We were going to meet there. And just so happened they got there before me, a little bit before me, and they called me while I was at the office, and they asked, well, when are you going to, he asked, when are you going to be there? When are you going to be here? And I said, I don't know, I have a little bit of work to do still. I said, why? He says, well, it's a guy here with a manuscript or some material. I don't know if he even said manuscript, but he said some of that stuff that you like to read. And it was all about, it was about spirituality, spiritual stuff. And he's like, well, that kind of stuff that you like to read, about spiritual stuff. And so I was like, okay. And I said, well, I'll be there, when I get there. I'll call you before I'm headed that way. And I didn't think anything of it. I finished up what I had to do. And when I was on my way, I called and I said, I'm about 15 minutes out, whatever. And when I got there, I was surprised that the guy that had this material was still there. Because I'm talking about it was a couple of hours. So I'm like, well, he's still here? Whoever he is. And so I met him, and sure enough, he had this manuscript. And the manuscript was it was written for or about a spiritual master, an Indian spiritual master by the name of Mira Baba. And Mira Baba, if you are not familiar with him, he became very well known in the 80s, but he was very much so active from the late 50s until maybe the 80s. But one thing you'll recognize him by is a song called Don't Worry, Be Happy. Bobby McFerrin recorded that song in the 80s because he saw a poster of Mira Baba, which coined that phrase, don't worry, be happy. That's what he used to teach his followers. Don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. That came from Mira Baba, and Bobby McFadden, he actually saw a poster with that on it, and that inspired him to write that song. And a lot of other famous people followed Mira Baba, I came to learn. But this gentleman, he let me see this. He let me read some of this manuscript. They kept talking, and I started reading this manuscript. And yes, it was a lot of inspiring information. It spoke about spiritual teachings, like Mira Baba spoke about peace. He spoke about love. He spoke about the teachings of Christ, he spoke about karma. And it was at the time in my life that was like, wow, this is some good stuff. I remember because I didn't own a TV. I didn't really watch TV, so I read all the time. And when it was time for him to go, or we were going to leave, I'm not sure which one it was, but we were about to part ways. And when I was reading, they were talking or whatever, guy talk, I guess. And the guy, his name was Shaw, that had the manuscript, and he looked at me. And he says, when I went to hand it back to him, he says, would you like to hold on to it? And I could still see the look in his eyes. I could still see the look in that man's eyes. He said, would you like to hold on to it? And I was kind of surprised because, if you're like me, I don't just hand over like material like that. I just don't, I'm not that can't just easily let go of some things that I think are sacred or, have a certain amount of wisdom. It's like, I don't know, maybe that's just me. But anyway, I was like, yeah, I'd love to hold on to it. I was surprised that he offered that. But I was like, yeah, I'd like to hold on to it. And I continued reading. And I'm talking about, I took that manuscript and I probably read it 2 or 3 times, highlighted things, folded pages back, dog-eared the corners of some things. Because since then, we hadn't.
They're ringing an alarm now. The alarm means to tell the boss to turn it up.
We hadn't heard. Well, I hadn't heard from him that he wanted the book back anyway. But he did show up at a couple of comedy shows, and he always talked about his girlfriend named Tamika. And he says, yeah, she's a sister. She's a black girl, and yeah, I'd love for you to meet her. And whenever he would show up to like some of my open mic nights, like we were always like, well, where's Tamika? And she never showed up. But I know that you probably saying, well, what does all this have to do with GangStalking? But I'm gonna get to it. And thank you for hanging in there with me. So, out of the blue, Shaw gets in contact with me and he says he wants the manuscript back. And it probably was about 60 days I had this manuscript. So I really didn't think that, as easily as he let it go, I didn't think that it was going to be a big deal that he was going to ask for it back. However, he did, and we made plans for me to get it back to him. We made plans to meet at the library downtown. And I was only planning on just seeing him and just giving him the book and said thanks and walking off. And so when I got there, I was running a little late and the parking lot was rather full. So I'm like, I don't have time to look for a parking space. But I had a handicap decal from a relative I would help out, and I was taking them to and from doctor's appointments, and that decal was still in my car. So I just threw it on the window, parked in the handicap, threw it on the window, thinking I'm going to run in and just head back out. And that was going to be it, And so I parked and I put the decal up there. I walked in with just the manuscript. And when I got there, he was sitting at a table. And almost like when I first walked over to him, he had things spread out like he was ready to have a lecture with me. And so I was kind of taken aback. And he was like, well, have a seat. And because I had handed him the manuscript, he's like, oh, have a seat. I'm like, okay, to be nice. I was being nice. And I didn't want to be rude. So I sat down. I said, I didn't bring, he started talking. He was talking about these other spiritual books that I might want to look at. And I said, well, I didn't bring anything to write with. I said, let me run to my car real quick. I'll grab my day plan and I'll be back. By the time I get to the car, I notice I have a ticket on my car for $250. And it was because the decal I hadn't noticed had expired. So when I get my day plan and go back in, all I can think about was that $250 ticket on my car. I'm like, I can't believe I just got a $250 ticket. So when I go in, he was actually like talking, and it was almost like he was trying to teach me or trying to be sure, or I don't know. It was just like he was adamant about, asking me questions and quizzing me about what did I learn in the Mir Baba book and everything. And he might as well have been saying wonk, 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 like on the peanut gallery, the teacher that used to be on Charlie Brown. Like, I didn't hear anything he said because I was just thinking about, I can't believe I got a $250 ticket I got to go deal with. So I wasn't there very long with that on my mind. And after a while, not even after a while, like within minutes, I said, thank you for this. I jotted down a few books that he mentioned, and I said, thanks. I said, but I really I gotta get going. I kind of shunned him in a sense, but I could still see the look on his face when he handed me that manuscript, and when I left out the library that day, like he was kind of like it wasn't disappointment. The look that he gave me, it wasn't disappointment. It was almost like I don't know the emotion, but it was almost like, how dare you, you know. And so, although I shunned him that day, I still did continue reading and studying Mir Baba because I liked his teachings. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. Since, we were all familiar with the song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. And the fact that he did speak about, the teachings of Jesus and the Bible and love and peace. And so with the ticket, I went down to the office right after I left there. I went down there, and there was a sister behind the counter, and she and we became, friendly after a while. But boy, woof, I went down there. I was like 38 hot because it was just weird. I mean, it was like within seconds. I walked in and walked back out, and it's a $250 ticket on my car because at that time, like, Sarasota, everybody knew everybody. It was like little Mayberry. There's a lot of stars. There's a lot of stars that live here, but at the same time, it was a small town back then, and it was just unheard of. You didn't get tickets like that. I mean, so I go to the office, and the sister behind the counter, she was like, "What you was doing with that?" With it anyway. And I was like, look, I was taking care of a loved one, and I didn't know that. She was like, well, you should have gave it back when you stopped taking care of your loved one or whatever. But we became real friendly. She gave me like 5 payments on the $250. That was cool. And I hope I don't know. I haven't seen her since, because they moved the office. But anyway, so I continued to read Mir Baba. I continued to study Mir Baba to the point where I loved his teachings. And
but I got to say something about that damn ticket, man. You see the extortion in the American corporation. See, if you read this is heads up for anybody that want to get out of the matrix. You go ahead and get that UCC or the straw man, and you will never pay another ticket in your life. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
I started painting. I painted some of my paintings were of Mir Baba. Drawings I did of Mir Baba, and this was in 2000, from 2013, 2014, the end of 13-14, when I met Shaw, and I was laid this manuscript was laid on me, and I read and I started studying Mir Baba. And around 2021, I was listening to a video about idolatry, and I was listening about how you can bring certain things into your life and into your home that can bring witchcraft into your home. And I started thinking back, about the how witchcraft works, and I started thinking back about how this came into my life, and I was like, I need to get rid of those paintings. I said, I'm doing some of this. And it took, my gang stalking was the worst from 2014 to to 2021. Really bad from 2017 to 2021. I mean, the street theater was off the chain. The workplace mobbing.
Woo.
I mean, the traps, the mind games, the psychological warfare.
Wow.
I mean, I had so much coming at me.
Preach.
And I feel like I was under such heavy surveillance. And it was just, I mean, I would go places sometimes and it would be like 8 to 12 people there. Basically just there to mess with me, to stare at me, to, like, if I could, I remember one night I was playing a game of pool at this place. And, I mean, just people come up and touch your pool stick. Just do crazy stuff in the grocery store. They come up and they touch you. They follow you around. Just really wicked stuff.
Yeah, insane, you know? Insanity.
And I was listening to this video on idolatry, and I said, I'm doing some of this, and I said I got to get rid of those paintings. Something laid it on my heart to get rid of those paintings, and I went home. And I looked at them. I took them all down, but I didn't destroy them right away. It took me a couple of days because it was a lot of work that was put into them, and a lot of creativity. My work. But I got up enough nerve, and about 3 days later, I ripped them all up. I said, I got to do this. I got to do this. And I'm talking about it was almost instant. When I ripped up those paintings, those drawings, I would say about 70, if not 75% of everything I was going through as far as gang stalking is concerned, dissipated. Like literally went away. And when I did rip them up, I was sitting down after that, and I remember I was sitting in my powder room, and one wall was the mirror, and I was sitting there and I'm looking at the stuff I done tore it all up, and I heard a laugh. And it was like a laugh. It wasn't a sinister laugh. It wasn't any familiar laugh. It was a hearty laugh, like, And I still to this day don't know what that laugh was, but...
Was that V2K?
It kind of shocked me.
Is that V2K laugh?
And I don't know. I don't know why the laugh came, but that's what I heard. And after that, literally, like I said, about 70% of everything I was going through as far as gang stalking was concerned dissipated. And that taught me a lesson about how witchcraft is used on people who, and it's almost like that man Shaw was an apprentice. Like they, up until that point, they hadn't been able to kind of throw me off. They're like, well, you know, and that's what will happen. They'll come at you in a crafty way. I spoke about in...
Well, I ain't got no paintings. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no paintings, but my motherfucking gang stalking don't go away. I don't know what the hell, you know what I'm saying? My shit must be like different. You know what I'm saying? You know, I got that different gang stalking. You know what I'm saying? You know, and people talk, call on Jesus. Man, I done called on everybody. Okay? I'm still in the dark city.
One of my videos about honey traps, the different kinds of honey traps. And this man was a honey trap for me. They come in looking for your sweet spot. And I think...
Can you blame them?
They had tried...
Can you blame them? They're supposed to look for that sweet spot.
In a lot of ways, and they weren't able to kind of get into... To get next to me, in a sense. And this was a way that this man came into... Brought witchcraft, wickedness into my life. And I mean, it amped up my gang stalking to a degree that I could have never imagined some of the things I was seeing. It was like, you know, you walk out your house and it's like a landmine. You don't know what's going to jump off.
Yeah, lying.
1 minute to the next.
Yeah, lying, boy. I'm only laughing because the only ones that can relate to this is the ones that have been in the program. You know what I'm saying? What did Morpheus tell Neo? He said, nobody can explain to you what the Matrix is. You must find out for your fucking self, okay? You know what I mean? So that's the same thing. You over here trying to explain gang talking to these bots. Well, the bots is already in on it anyway, but I'm just saying, like, even if you found a real person, if there is a real person out there, you try to explain, you can't explain gang stalking to nobody. Not to a real person. They will never understand nothing like this. So in order for them to understand it, they got to do what Neo did: sit in that chair, hook himself up, put that thing in his medulla oblongata, and go into the sentient gang stalking program.
Who's gonna jump out the bushes? What's gonna, who's gonna say some rude stuff to you today?
Who gonna
Who's
jump
gonna
out the
walk
bushes?
up and take a picture of you today? Who's gonna try and run you off the road? Who's going to say something about your personal life that you never even shared with anybody, much less a stranger, knowing
Facts.
anything about you?
Facts. Well, how did they do that, D? How did they do that? How can they share your thought? Because everybody's thoughts is on broadcast. The boss thoughts is on broadcast, as well as your thoughts is on broadcast. They got us all connected to the High Mind program, the High Mind Sentient program. So the bots is able to read your thoughts and manipulate your dreams and see your dreams and implant fake dreams. And that's the reason why you got this rapture thing going around now. They so duped and dumb, they don't realize that, this rapture dream is just a DARPA program. You know what I'm saying? And they're implementing or it's basically fabricated dreams that they're putting or injecting or manipulating. They know how to dream manipulate. Okay, the AI does this shit, but we got the gang stalkers. The gang stalkers are the ones working behind the scene. That's the reason why the gang stalkers are there with you 24/7, because they're working. The gang stalkers are like Santa's little elves. You know what I'm saying? the gang stalkers are Santa's, aka Satan, because Santa is Satan. You know what I'm saying? Look at the spelling. You know what I'm saying? SANTA, you know what I'm saying? That's what, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So if Santa is Satan, and Satan is Saturn, and Saturn is Kronos, and Kronos is the demiurge linked up to the archons that run this fucking planet. So, these people work for them. These little elves, these little gang stalking bot trolls work for that. They work for that higher power. Okay? Tune your punk ass into Gang Stalking Simulation. You're gonna learn something today.
The whole program was amped up until 2021 when I heard that video on idolatry, and I said, I'm doing some of that, and I destroyed those paintings. And this man, I believe, was a witch, a warlock, sent maybe an apprentice, but he probably said, I got something for her. She likes to read. That's a honey trap, because if they followed me enough, they know every time I was at lunch, I was reading. Every time I sat outside and drank my coffee in the morning, I was reading. Every time I took a break at work, if I stepped outside, I sat on the bench, I read. So he was a honey trap for me. He said he had a girlfriend named Tamika. Like, they know you don't have no friends. They know you isolated. I would have loved to have met Tamika. He could have drugged me along a long time. Yeah, Tamika gonna show up. Oh, one day Tamika gonna show up. And I'm saying, oh, then we gonna meet Tamika. Tamika never showed up.
Tamika was fake.
Never met her.
Tamika was a figment of that man's imagination.
He used to show up at a lot of my comedy things, and the thing is that my loved one, we had a thing. And I used to say to him when I'm on stage, if I can hear you laughing, I know what I'm saying is funny. And what Shaw started doing was when he showed up, when I got on stage, he would start talking to my loved one. So he couldn't hear, really, he was distracted, and I couldn't hear him laughing. So Tamika didn't show up, and he basically came there to kind of disrupt the energy between me and my loved one, who was my biggest supporter at the time. A lot of comedians are like that. Richard Pryor Paul Mooney spoke about in his book how Richard Pryor, he would always be up front, because if Richard could hear him laughing, then Richard felt like what he was saying was funny. But it's always important that you have somebody there that's your support. Um, so he started doing things like that, and I spoke also about how they need for you to die in your sins. Had I not come across that video about idolatry and listened to the word, see, a lot of times God will send you somewhere for a season to hear what you need to hear, to read what you need to read, to enrich you. Go there to be enriched, to go there to study, right? Not to necessarily to be there, or to be there to be entertained anyway. And I'm so glad, because had I not, I probably would have perished in my sin, not knowing that I had even let that into my cipher, into my environment, thinking something so innocent, because it came in the disguise of spirituality. It amazes me how many people are into the tarot cards and into the occult witchcraft. There's so much of it going on these days.
Well, you got to understand, this world is built off witchcraft. You got to understand, there's nothing wrong with tarot cards. Get all that out your head. Get all that. They want you afraid of that shit. There's nothing spooky about nothing. The only thing that's spooky is you being in ignorance. That's the only thing that's spooky. The moment you study to show thyself approved, you won't be afraid of none of this bullshit no more, because you realize that it's all an illusion anyway. And there's no reason to be afraid of none of this crap. We're not even here anyway. This is just a projection. Okay? You know what I'm saying? None of this is real. That's the reason why when we die, we're gone. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be like we never was here to begin with. You know what I mean? What should it profit a man to gain the world and lose their soul? It profits you nothing. You know what I'm saying? Remember, the beast used witchcraft to deceive the world. The beast used witchcraft to keep the people under hypnosis and in a reprobated mind. For the God of this world have blinded the minds of these bots. 2 Corinthians 4:4. The minds of the bots are they're reprobates. You see what I'm saying? So this is the reason why you gotta understand your ancient ancestors was using witchcraft. Your ancient they was using witchcraft in the Bible. Read the Old Testament. They was casting lots and doing witchcrafts and all types of stuff. This ain't nothing new. They've been used witchcraft. Witchcraft is like a gun. You see what I'm saying? You can use it to go crazy with it. You could take a M16 and go in the mall and start shooting bots right now. Or you can use that M16 for self-defense. You know what I'm saying? Or you can go ahead and use that M16 to go to Iraq for the government and fight for him. You see what I'm saying? Is the choice is yours. You see what I'm saying? You cannot knocking witchcraft is like knocking firearms. Oh, but we gotta ban guns and all. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is what they say. Guns don't kill people. Stupid people with guns kill people. So witchcraft don't kill people. Stupid people with witchcraft kill people. People are abusing it. You know what I'm saying? People learn how to do dark spells and dark magic on people, and they're out there doing it. So this is the reason why you gotta stay prayed up. This is the reason why you gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna show y'all nothing. I'm about to show y'all some books that I got. I'm not showing y'all nothing because y'all. I ain't got the Bible on my head. Y'all just want to see the Bible. You know what I'm saying? That's it. But I'm not gonna show y'all what I got. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's just a message. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid of witchcraft. Study it, learn it, and use witchcraft to protect yourself. Okay? That's what you do. Because you cannot stop your neighbors or somebody down the street from trying to light a candle and put a hex on you. You cannot stop that. That motherfucker gonna do it regardless if they don't like you. But what you can do, you can put some protection up so that way you can reverse that shit. and it would get sent right back to the sender. You see what I'm saying? And bust that bot upside his goddamn head. And with that being said, man, it's like 30 minutes. It's a long video because she took forever with the story. We only got like 4 more minutes till the video is over. Let me see if I can squeeze in a little bit more before I stop it.
It's almost like it's the norm.
It is the norm.
But I'm a living witness and a testimony that I feel like God put me in the right place at the right time to hear those right words. And had I not, I probably would have perished in that sin.
But the thing is, was it God or was it the Adjustment Bureau? Because the Adjustment Bureau will put you in the right place at the right time for the red and white cars to ride past your ass, for you to see that shit, for them dog stalkers to come out. You know what I'm saying? So when we say God, what God are you talking about? Is it Kronos? Is it the God of this world? What God? You know what I'm saying? What God? Is it the Adjustment Bureau? Watch the movie Adjustment Bureau for those that didn't see it yet. I say it over and over and over. I'm going to always say it. I'm going to always recommend these movies until people watch them. Adjustment Bureau, They Live, Dark City, Infinite, which is a new one I just checked out. Infinite with Mark Wahlberg. You know what I'm saying? When Dreams May Come. Write these movies down. Eagle Eye. Sauce's Party. No homo, no Diddy. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was like a gay thing too. When Sauce's Party. You know what I'm saying? But actually, it was actually funny. And as you can see, you're gonna see the clips that I posted up. You know what I'm saying? They speaking game in the movie. There's an animation, but they speaking game. They telling you about what the deal is, man.
I could have easily drank myself to
a coma.
till my health became bad or worse, because I tell you this too, when I destroyed those paintings and I ripped up that energy, my health improved, my business took off.
Wow.
My marriage improved.
I don't know what kind of GangStalking she
Everything
got.
got better. And it was because I recognized that energy by listening, by being a student. I never want to ever feel like I know it all.
Nah, never.
Because when you do, that's when I think you're dead in the water.
Fact.
That's when you lose out on learning
On
valuable
information.
things, life lessons.
When what they say? They said that when the teacher will appear when the student is ready. When the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. When the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. A teacher cannot teach you anything if the class is